It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. How you guys doing? Mariam Longe, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
I love this hair on you. I mean, this is like your signature look for me.
Thank you, Murayo.
I really like.
Oh, of course.
How you doing?
I'm fine. So you and I went to see Hilda yesterday.
Yeah.
It was just an amazing experience because of just the energy that was there. I was just surprised. We got there when she was in her like 90-something hour, right? And she was still so vibrant. She was smiling, even paying attention to each and every one of us that said hello to her and responding to us while cooking. I just thought she's just an amazing young lady. And to Nigerians, I'm just so proud of us. I'm like, look at us. This is us. See us, you know? So well done.
Nigerians showed up.
Supporting our own.
We showed up and we showed out.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I saw a lot of celebrities.
Yeah, a lot of celebrities were there. We're just coming in and out. And regular folks.
Yes,
just
regular
coming in
folks.
and out. Just coming. It was really nice to see the energy there. And congratulations to her. She did 100 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
Fantastic.
What have I ever done for 100 hours?
I don't know.
Maybe
Work. You know? How are you doing, Obiachulu?
I'm doing great.
I love the top.
Thank you.
This time is BC's
Everything is
House
House of BC. The top is exclusive.
Gone couture.
Oh.
Me, I
So
want
small.
this top.
We're getting this small.
Auntie, me, I want this top.
This was an old stock. Oh.
Are you
Sold
crazy?
out. Hey,
Never seen it.
I
I've never
have.
seen
I've
this
won.
stock
It's an
before.
old, a few years back.
Okay. So it's difficult to
Yes,
get. But how are you doing though?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm just, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to lament, but it's just unfortunate that people would steal openly without any form of care. So on Saturday, went to a clinic, I and my husband, and we parked outside. Normally, we would have driven inside. But before we came out, we spent about a few hours. Before we came out, they had lifted the, what's it called now? That window that stays outside.
The what do you call it? The mirrors.
The mirrors, yes, the side mirrors.
Side mirrors.
They had removed the side mirrors and left with it. And everybody outside, nobody saw who did it. It was just so painful. And a close in Lekki was where this happened. It was so annoying. And it wasn't just if it was my regular car that I bring to work. It was a luxury car. So I would spend, I know how much I'm going to spend to get each of those mirrors. And nobody could account. The security men, everybody was clueless. It's just, it doesn't tell well. Yeah, they were not clueless, Abby. It was just, so I just said, now wow, in this Lagos, if I go to any place now that I can't park inside, there's no need to stop.
Yeah.
I'll
That's
just
one
go
thing
home.
Get a driver.
With, Lagos, you would expect that there are some places that would be more decent.
That was
and
what
they
I
can be
thought.
More secure. And
It's a close. So how do you take that and run away and nobody saw you?
that's,
Bele.
Thank you, Jerry. Money where person no get, you go come they spend and they do buy side mirror.
I know. I mean, for me, I don't know. I've been craving seafood like my crazy. Like,
Make okra seafood now.
Seafood.
Seafood
we
okra.
saw across seafood yesterday.
Yeah, maybe that was
Oh,
that's
enter your
why.
head.
Honestly, I'm just in craving food. But I went over the weekend to a restaurant in Lekki where I had heavy prawns. Like I posted it on my story. I couldn't post it on my regular IG.
How come I missed it? Okay, he wasn't with you.
He wasn't with me. You see, I'm spending, we're wasting our money. I just posted it on story, and he never saw that one. I'm sure he doesn't watch it. So he wouldn't know.
Like with your hands and everything.
Yes,
broke
I
the
took my time.
And he doesn't have girlfriends that watch and tell him what
Yeah,
you're saying.
nobody.
If it's me, they will know. Before I get home, Oga
no,
has
he
heard
did
what
not
I
know. In
said.
fact, he never mentioned it. I'm like, fantastic. He didn't know.
Now he knows.
No, he wouldn't trust me. He doesn't watch TV. He's not around. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we come back, we go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Okay, we're going to start with The Nation. Inspector General warns subversive elements against plots to derail the May 29th inauguration. Nigerians spend $1.2 billion on medical tourism yearly, says Minister. 13 trillion naira spent on subsidy in 16 years, says federal government. US, we have sanctioned those who undermined elections. Life outside power is challenging. Igbinidion Saraki tell outgoing governors. Assault on inspector. Detained Seun Kuti may undergo drug test. Okay,
At the very end.
let's start with medical tourism.
Yes. The Minister for Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Issa Pantami, has said that $1.2 billion annually goes towards medical tourism, and that the federal government, in trying to reverse this trend, has inaugurated what it calls a digital health service platform, NIG Health, NIG, to bridge the gap in healthcare. So it was unveiled yesterday, and they're hoping this platform would address the challenges of shortage of healthcare personnel, medical tourism, and inadequate technological infrastructure. It will be managed by the Nigerian Communications Satellite Limited. It was also demonstrated, they demonstrated how this platform works. It works through an app. And of course, the president was thanked for his support in helping the efforts of private investors in this. So for me, I feel that, okay, let me just finish. So they said the platform, we're promoting a more efficient, effective healthcare system that could be accessible to all Nigerians, will improve the capacity of our healthcare professionals to deliver quality services by leveraging technology to reach out to patients in remote areas with less cost and physical stress. So for me, I feel that that is what we would address most and should concentrate most. That's patients in remote areas in Nigeria.
Right.
That medical tourism or in travel, it's not
our problem.
Platform that will address that.
Right.
That one has to be something that we'll be talking to the House of Reps and to discuss policies on how to curb that. Simple. But this is important for reaching remote areas in Nigeria.
Okay, United States have sanctioned those who undermined the past elections in Nigeria, the February elections. According to the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, he said that this move was not targeted at Nigerians or government at all. He said they've announced that they've taken steps to impose visa restrictions on specific individuals in Nigeria who undermined the elections. Now, unfortunately, he didn't mention the name, so we don't know exactly who these sanctions have been put up against. But according to him, Blinken added that this was according to the Section 212, subsection 3C of the Immigration Nationality Act, that says that these individuals will be subject to restrictions on visas to the United States under the policy covering those believed to be responsible or complicit in undermining democracy. Now, that's a lot to unpack, because if you don't give us the names
of the people,
how do Nigerians actually know you implemented these sanctions? And how do we know if, let me
just like the US to know how to play this.
Everybody, they play by the way.
politicians too.
We are all politicians.
Yeah, so the federal government said yesterday that Nigeria has spent over 13 trillion on petrol subsidies in 16 years. So the secretary to the government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, said the money was spent between 2005 and 2021. He spoke in Abuja at the launch of the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NATI, and they were having a strategic plan from 2022 to 2026. So the Presidential Transition Council, PTC, will release the guide that emanates from the discussion on the premium motor spirits petrol subsidy to the incoming administration of President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And from that policy advisory, they said over 13 trillion, which is equivalent to 74 billion, is documented to have been expended on the payment of subsidy between 2005 and 2021. And they're assuring Nigerians that the federal government had been keenly following the subsidy conversations, having borne the burden of fuel subsidy themselves for this number of years. And they are saying they are open to ongoing debate about the subsidy. They want to get a comprehensive position guide to how they can make everything work out, whether they're taking out the subsidy or not. And, they talked about the fact that the money for the subsidy is equivalent to what should have been used for health, for our education, for technology, for infrastructure, and different sectors. So they are trying as much as possible to see how, if they take out the subsidy, how they can use this money judiciously across all of those sectors to bring about improvement. But they will finalize everything and pass it on to the president-elect that's going to be inaugurated.
The Punch. Tinubu's inauguration, the military inspector general warns troublemakers as court hears the anti-handover case. Picture here of Sheikh Kuti spends night in custody, police plan arraignment. Hilda's marathon cooking smashes world record, grabs global attention. Nollywood stars mourn as Murphy Al-Falabi is buried. Gridlock again, commuters groan as Lagos-Ibadan Expressway on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Pay rise, residents, doctors begin warning strike on Wednesday. U.S. announces visa ban on Nigerian poll riggers. And AFG spends 13 trillion on subsidy, sets removal guidelines. Okay, which story are we starting with?
Motorists in Lagos-Ibadan Expressway were stranded yesterday for hours on the gridlock. And they said this started Sunday after the massive downpour in the area. But also eyewitnesses said there's a lot of construction work going on, and as well as multiple accidents that happened on the road. And they said there was a truck that was conveying rams or cows who rammed into a vehicle behind, and that vehicle rammed into others. So there was multiple impacts of the accidents and multiple crashes on the road, and that affected the traffic as well. So they are trying, they said, according to an eyewitness, said about 4 persons were injured and rushed to the hospital. So they are saying that among those 4 persons, 2 children, 1 male and 1 female were involved in the accident. And they're asking that the government comes, the security agencies come and take out all the things obstructing the road, and the construction that's happening there should be, done effectively, so that diversions can be given for commuters to take other routes, and then we'll have a free flow of traffic.
Okay, let me take the update on the Seun Kuti story. So many of you know that he actually came to the police to report himself to the police on Monday, where he was detained and paraded. He was handcuffed, actually. We saw pictures of him being handcuffed and paraded at the police. According to reports by Punch, what really happened was that the policeman had followed Seun Kuti to his residence off Allen because Seun has hit his car. And he followed him, maybe because Seun Kuti did not want to stop at the time. Anyway, he followed him to the car, and then Seun got down and gave him 12,000 naira to repair his vehicle. This was after the altercation had happened that we'd seen the video on Third Mainland Bridge, where he had pushed the policeman and slapped the policeman. But the story was that he was actually Seun Kuti that hit the man's car. Oh. Anyways, he's been arraigned, and of course, Seun Kuti's lawyer from Falana's office was saying that it was completely illegal for them to parade him the way they did and to handcuff him, that it was wrong, it was illegal for them to do that, and that that issue would also be raised in court. But today, this morning, the matter is going to be heard in court, and then we'll see the proceedings afterwards. But at least we're happy that the proceedings have started, and we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on a quick break. Do you have time for your story? When we come back, we'll take your story. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Okay, we're going to continue with Punch. You had a story, Mara?
Yeah, so my story is Hilda Bassi's story.
Yay!
Yay!
Whoop, whoop,
So
whoop.
they say at exactly 4 p.m., May 11, 2023, the clock ticked. May 11th? What's today's date?
Today is 16th.
It must have been, they made a mistake, 15th. Yeah. Bassi turned on her kids. Okay, sorry, that's when it started, May 11th. Okay. And we know that at the end of it, she did 100 hours and 40 minutes, 4 days of cooking. And she beat the record for the previous record of 87 hours, 45 minutes. They describe her as someone who is always, she says as a child, she's always read the book of the Guinness World Records, and she's always wanted to be on it. And she had planned this out for 5 years. They talk about all the meals that she cooked and how everyone talked about the quality of her food till the very end. It did not drop at all. But you know what was also much more exciting about it is all the people that came to support her. We had, of course, politicians. They said notable celebrities, as we know, the governor of Lagos State, former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Akwa was there, popular musician Tiwa Savage, Big Brother Titans ex-housemates. We have some of them
Ladies
from
of Your
South Africa. Ladies of Your View
yeah.
were there. Some, you know,
Bororo was
influencers. Everyone was there. She got congratulatory messages from our president.
Yes.
Our president-elect, and then also presidential candidate for the LP and PDP as well. So everybody is saying that, well done. President Buhari lost the young culinary expert for turning her talent and passion into a career with a rippling effect on the economy as she runs a restaurant in Lagos, trains other talents on entrepreneurship, and now leads the world in resilience, perseverance, and consistency in cooking. So,
And she
well done.
successfully brought Nigerians
Together.
together like football, like soccer would do.
Yeah.
She brought us together for one purpose, and I think that's a huge accomplishment for
Yes.
a young lady.
The
Congratulations.
quality of the food, people kept talking about it. Somebody said, if I cook for 50 hours, when you taste the food, food will taste you back.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's move on now to the Nigerian Tribune. North Central governors fault APC zoning template. Higher food prices push Nigerians' inflation to 22.22%. Okonjo-Iweala warns governors-elect against debt acquisition. IGP warns persons plotting to scuttle inauguration of the new government. 2023 polls, U.S. imposes visa restrictions on election violators. Resident doctors begin warning strike. Court bars NYSC from further disclaiming Enugu governor-elect certificate. And 228 buildings, 336 families affected by the rainfall in Lagos, says NEMA. That was a really huge rainfall over the weekend. Okay, which story are we starting with in Nigerian Tribune?
The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors have declared a 5-day warning strike following the failure of the federal government to meet their demands. The decision was reached after a 6.5 hours extraordinary National Executive Council meeting, which was held yesterday. The resident doctors said the strike will commence exactly 8 a.m. tomorrow, that's May 17th, till Monday, May 22nd at 8 a.m. I know last week the association, I think 2 weeks ago, April 29th, issued a 2-week ultimatum to the federal government to meet its demands or face industrial action. And the ultimatum ended Saturday, May 13th, 2023. Now, the doctors are demanding an immediate increment in the consolidated medical salary structure to the tune of 200% of the current gross salaries of doctors. They want the immediate withdrawal of the bill seeking to compel medical and dental graduates to render 5-year compulsory services in Nigeria before granting full licenses to practice. They also want the immediate implementation of CONMES, domestication of the Medical Residency Training Act, and review of hazard allowance by all the state governments, as well as private tertiary health institutions where any form of residency training is done, among others. So these are some of the, some of the things that they have presented to the federal government and the changes they want before they can call off the strike. The Labour Minister is saying that they are already negotiating, so he doesn't expect them to continue with this strike action. But let's see how this turns out.
We have a suspected bandit. They said he's blown himself up using an improvised explosive. This happened in Kaduna in order for him to evade arrest, they said. They said that the victim had been on the security agency's watch list for a while, and they had been tracking him until he was trailed to his particular hiding place called KK, I think, in Kaduna State. They said that a combined team of soldiers, policemen, and DSS stormed his building and about to arrest him. When he realized that his entire building had been surrounded by security operatives, he engaged them in a gun battle. And he saw that he was definitely going to lose, so he just blew himself up. The security operatives arrested, is what they said, or recovered from they recovered some arms and ammunition from his building, and also his family was evacuated from there. They took his wife and children from the building.
Okay, so the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has confirmed actually the plot to scuttle the May 29th official inauguration of the new administration. According to him, the politicians or major political actors that the outcome of the past elections did not favor have been issuing public threats and are directed at instigating actions to frustrate the presidential inauguration coming up. He has said that the national intelligence community have closely monitored the activities of these players, as well as other elements who have formed themselves as unpatriotic brands whose fantasy is to disrupt the nation. He said that they are warning them very closely. He said the beauty of democracy lies not just in the freedom of the citizens to freely exercise their franchise within the electoral cycle, but it's also hinged on the right of aggrieved political actors to submit grievances on the electoral committee to the judicial process. So all plans, we've heard this before, those who are planning to scuttle the inauguration, but the Inspector General said they are on them, and hopefully it will be a smooth transition on May 29th. Everybody's waiting just less than 2 weeks to go. So, okay, let us go now to The Guardian. Are we done with Punch? The Tribune. The Guardian. Uncertainty over $2.3 billion Siemens deal as grid collapses 99th time under Buhari. Assault. Kuti apologizes, gives officer 12,000 naira for vehicle repairs. U.S. slams visa ban on Nigerians who undermine 2023 elections. Government kicks against move to halt doctors' migration. Resident doctors declare 5-day warning strike. And Buhari leaves inflation at highest in 17 years. Okay, which story are we doing in Guardian?
Federal government yesterday opposed the bill sponsored by a member of the House of Representatives, Ganiyu Johnson, APC Lagos, seeking to check migration of doctors and other medical professionals. The proposed piece of legislation is making it compulsory for medical graduates to practice at least 5 years before licensing. But the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, is saying that the bill contravenes extant labour laws, and, went ahead to address newsmen after the extraordinary Federal Council, Executive Council meeting presided over by the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, at the presidential villa. And he said that, he was responding to the threat of the National Association of Resident Doctors to go on strike. And he said you cannot keep a medical doctor after he has graduated from school in the country for 5 years before licensing him, that is not acceptable. Nobody will get a practicing license till after 5 years. It doesn't make sense. It runs contrary to the laws of the land. He himself is a medical doctor, and he knows that when they graduate from medical school, they go on 1 year apprenticeship called housemanship or internship. And after that, you are now fully licensed to practice as a medical doctor. But you can now choose, that's why their resident doctors choose to, specialize in maybe, surgery, hearts? Cardiology, specialize in pediatric medicine, just pick your specialties. And that's why they are resident doctors, and you cannot keep them for that long before licensing them. So definitely this law is not going to fly.
And this is also Nigeria,
yeah,
where they spend extra years than they need to because of strike.
NYSC is there.
Yes.
They are still going to do their NYSC.
Okay. Any other story in Guardian?
They say our president is leaving behind an inflation rate of 22.22%, the highest in about 17 years, which will be well over double the level he met in 2015. National Bureau of Statistics released the last consumer price index in the life of the current administration, showing headline inflation of 22.22%. Whereas they say high inflation is often blamed on food and energy costs, core inflation strips out volatile items, including food, remained elevated at 20.14%. Anyway, it just looks like, a bad case altogether. They're also saying that monetary policy rates now 18%. Commercial loans are in the region of 28 to 33%. We have some stakeholders, accusing the Senate and House of Representatives committees on banking and finance for complicity and inaction, saying that there's no standard loan document or provisions, to address this. And they're also saying that these charges by the banks, it's killing businesses, slowing purchasing power, limiting manufacturing as a result of high cost of borrowing. Companies owing banks have seen interest on existing loans rise. It just seems like a sad situation all around.
Another sad situation is the much hyped Nigeria-Germany deal with the Siemens Power. If you recall, we're all excited about that deal. But Guardian did a report saying that unfortunately they've missed all the timeline, the major timelines. That we obviously can't have that. Before the end of this administration, Buhari cannot say he has been able to solve the issue of power because people were excited about that deal. According to Lanre Elatui, who is the Siemens Power electricity analyst, he was saying that he blamed COVID-19 partly as part of the cause of the delay in execution and other issues surrounding the commercial framework of the deal and the buying of other market players. He said that the incoming administration will simply have to determine if the process will be stalled or not. He says the power deal, though, was promising, but the reality is obvious that the timelines have been passed and we can only defer to the incoming administration, just like many other things. We're leaving subsidy to the incoming administration. In fact, so as I'm excited that they are getting the new administration. Okay, that is all we can take on Front Page Review. When we return, move on to our topic of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, a report came to us. We got this report from Daily Trust. They had done a report concerning Zamfara civil servants organizing a prayer session, special prayer, for the non-payment of their salaries. According to them, they gathered at the Eid Mosque in Gusau, state capital, on Saturday. And specifically, they said that many of them have been pushing to be beggars, unable to eat 1 square meal a day. So according to them, the prayer session is specially meant to commit their dear governor, head of service, members of House of Assembly, and all those concerned for God to enable them to be compassionate on them. Now, that is what we have seen coming from Zamfara State. Now, in linking that story to the report we took yesterday, that many outgoing governors will be living with lots of fat pensions as a result of the laws being passed by the House of Assembly. So they're going to be going home with jumbo packages. We're going to use Zamfara as a case study in this regard, that the citizens are coming together. And we saw pictures. Daily Trust actually put pictures of these people praying, seeking God's intervention because they are actually resorting to become beggars. That's the reality in some of our states. In some of our states that have potential but are not generating revenue. What are your thoughts on this, and how do we begin to help shed some views on this, or how do we shed better light on this kind of issue to help citizens or help our government to make the right choices going forward? You can call us on the numbers on your screen, 08127053687, 09139076948. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweet. We can condemn this because there's nobody that's going to hear this and not condemn it. That's the easiest thing to do. But my most concern is we keep doing the same thing over and over again. And as the new governments are coming in, Nigerians are asking for better treatment from their government, better system, better sustainable development programs that actually develops the people. So these are the conversations we need to highlight as we begin to have new administrations coming in. But what are your thoughts on what happened in Zamfara State on Saturday?
I feel sad. I feel sad because it's not even, it even shows like they have gotten to a point where they've given up totally. Because usually you get to a point where people are holding placards and getting angry and calling people out. They have passed that level. They're like, you see, the only thing that can save us now is just talk to God and talk to God to turn their hearts. It reminds me of the Bible stories of the Israelites trying to turn the heart of Pharaoh, and he had to, that's where we are, and it is sad. It is sad because as a country, right, first of all, and we talk about the immense wealth that we have. We like to brag about it. We like to brag about all the resources we've been blessed with as Nigeria. As a state, Zamfara State, even though it's a developing state, it's just a state with so much untapped potential, you know, and it makes me question. You know, every time when I first joined the show, Mariah once called me aside and says, anytime government people come, don't be so quick to praise them. Question and ask them. And I was like, Auntie, where I'm coming from? we don't see half of these things. So I am impressed, you know, and that's what, and it's sad because I know what these states can be capable of. The northern states just so huge, not only in natural resources, even human resources, but children are out of school, the insecurity, Boko Haram, all these things just come together and it's crushing the north. You know, some other governors are able to sort of pick themselves up and be creative, but it seems like the northern governors are struggling in that. You know, a few of them have sort of differentiated themselves. I think Kano, Kaduna, Plateau is trying. But many other states, they seem to be lost on exactly what they need to do to help their people. We're doing it the old way, where we are waiting for federal government to send us handouts and then we'll share it amongst them. But how long would you do that? Especially with the population that is constantly growing. The state needs to understand that it has to start to generate revenue. And if there are resources that the state has, maybe federal government has to sit down with state to see, you know what, even this is not meant to be under your purview. Because of the poverty that is rampant in this state, because of what you need to cover up, the governor or the state can be in charge on some level, like a percentage level, but to leave people to the point where they're desperately calling on God to change humans. When we have a constitution, when we even know what you're meant to do, when we know that when you do not pay salaries, that should come with some form of punishment. If you put Nigerians or your citizens or your indigents through so much hardship, you should be able to face the law for doing that. And people are just turning to God because there's no one else for them to turn towards.
Let me come to you, BC, your initial thoughts, because this is a very interesting governor. I mean, the reports have shown that he's one of the governors that refused to get his re-election bid, you know. So there are obviously some issues that he could have addressed that he didn't do. Let me come to your initial thoughts on this prayer session that was handled on Saturday.
So these workers said that they have not been paid since January. We know what has happened from January to date. And we know how, even with the resources that we have, even those of us that are still collecting our own salaries, how much of it goes for things that we can't even afford anymore. The standard of living is constantly dropping. Our purchasing power is dropping. Today we took a story on inflation. It is going high. So even the 20,000 or 35,000 you want to collect as your salary cannot even measure up to satisfy your needs. If you have a family that you cater for, that is a whole different ball game. You are definitely going to be doing 2-3 other jobs to be able to meet up. We know that. So this is painful to see full-blown adults, after they have done their work, praying to be paid for the work that they have done, to be paid for the services that they have rendered to the state. Even the scripture says in 1 Timothy 5:18 that you must pay, a worker deserves his wages. A worker is worthy of his wages. If I have put in the work, I must not be owed. And that's why they had to resort to prayer. Now, if you say that you do not have money to pay your workers, do you have money to service your infrastructure? Do you have money to service your own pocket and your aids? Are you saying that there is no money, and so for that you are not taking your own salary as a governor? You are not able to pay your immediate PAs, your aides. You are not able to service your car. You are not able to fuel it, or you are going ahead with meeting your own needs and owing these workers. So it's not enough to say there may not be money, but do you have the money to take care of yourself? A leader, first of all, would attend to his people. A leader eats last. That's the way I see it. So if you say there is no money, we should see in your account that there are some things we're not even able to do for ourselves as leaders, and we don't have the resources to pay you. You must be transparent. But it is wickedness to have all your needs met, and then your people who are making it possible for you to have those needs met are not being met halfway or anywhere at all.
So we get that. I mean, that's important. But some of these salaries are paid according to the law, according to what has been put aside for these positions as governor. However, what is really the crux of our conversation today really is because new governors are coming in, especially Zamfara State. He lost his bid to come back. So he lost to PDP. I mean, if you recall, he was actually PDP, was in the PDP party as of 2019, before when the Supreme Court gave him actually the opportunity to decamp or to really run to APC, and that's how he became governor. But today, right now, he's lost his re-election bid, and we're saying that the new administration coming in, whomever it will, across all the states in the country, we cannot have a repeat of this. Because many of these states are not generating revenue. They're all going cap in hand to the center. And these are some of the tough conversations the new president-elect must begin to have. You can't have a team of governors, your party or not your party, who are not generating revenue. If there's anything that the president-elect had done in his own state when he was governor, was to tell government, I don't need your money. I will find my money within. And if there's anything the leader does, is to replicate what he's done across the country. So we don't want a situation whereby citizens are going to God when there should be a system in place to pay their salaries. That's really conversation. How do we stop this effect, this continuity from going on across many states?
I would expect that the governors are ingenious enough to think. If you choose to become a leader, you must be able to have foresight. You must be able to be visionary. So you look at the map of your state. You look at the natural resources that you have. And I'm also happy that they are trying as much as possible to take some things out of the exclusive list to the concurrent list so that governors have a form of control for some of their resources. So you must table what you have. This is a civil service state. We don't have a lot of factories because for you to generate money, like what Lagos did during the time that the federal government was not giving them allocation, they had to look inwards and look at the private organizations. How do we tax these people? They made their money from taxing. But then a state like Zamfara, for instance, is not an industrial state, so to speak. Most headquarters are in places like Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. So in some of these states, they don't have enough factories. So ask yourself, how do we get investors to come and put factories here? Because we need our people to, aside from government jobs, we can't employ everybody. We need our people to be employed in private sectors. So we need factories. Which conversations, which companies do I meet and tell them, what can I offer them to bring them to my state? That's one of the ingenuity. Now, the natural resources that we have, are there any loopholes why we're not making money into the coffers of the state and the federal government? How do we begin to fish out all those illegal miners that are all over the place, taking our resources away? What do we do with the resources? These are some of the conversations governors should have, not just waiting, folding arms and allowing the federal government send money and not send money, and then you complain that the state is not generating money. What are you doing?
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, because many have said that our president currently has his laissez-faire leadership where he allows you to do. We're hoping the new president is not laissez-faire. We're hoping that he'll be able to ensure these governors work. But let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll take that on. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So the conversation today is about Zamfara State. However, it's not just Zamfara State where we're having workers, civil servants complaining of non-payment of salaries. It's across many states. And the conversation really is more about the preparedness of the new governors, the existing governors, to ensure that this never repeats itself again, where people can actually get jobs. And BC was giving us some ideas on how governors can get very, very creative in looking for other sources of revenue. However, let's go also to the parts of what I said that this present president, many have said, well, President Buhari he would expect you to do your job. You've been elected. He's not going to breathe over your head to ensure you do certain things. He just lets you do. But this new incoming the president-elect, we will definitely, some of our expectations of him is to be able to hold these governors accountable, regardless of what party, if there is kingsman from his own party or not. We need to we need to set the agenda of what Nigerians' expectations are. Because we can't have civil servants begging God for salaries when it is man ought to pay the salaries. Let me come to you, Mariam.
So, first of all, with the relationship between the president and governors of different states, I don't know how far a president is able to influence governors, especially governors of opposing political parties. You know, they seem to, the way it's done in Nigeria, and I think many, they seem to constantly be in opposition. You know, if the president is of a particular party and he goes left, be sure that the governors of the other party will go right. But one thing I would say is that towards this this election that brought about the president-elect Asiwaju, is that one narrative I heard consistently from the North, why he had such an overwhelming support from that area, is that they have seen what he has done in Lagos and what he started when he was governor and has sustained over the years, and they would like to see that in their own region as well. So you're likely to find a group of northern governors who will be willing to, you know, tap into what he has to offer and be willing and be open to do that. And I'm happy also because the North really does need the sort of intervention that Lagos State has gotten from the policies that Asiwaju had laid when he first became governor and what he sustained, the blueprint that he has. The North would really enjoy from something like that. I feel that the North is just a paradise just waiting to be explored. You know, the immense benefits for its people and also for the country at large, even for Africa. What we constantly hear from the North is, even as a child, when my grandma, when we would go to Jalingo or when I used to go to Yola, all those places, she'd just be showing me hills and this and telling me stories of, when Chinese came, they just said, only this place in Gembu or only this area will feed the whole of Africa. I used to hear that as a baby, and I'm still hearing that, you know. I just want it to be a reality. And when I look at it constantly, I've always thought that it was the lack of creativity of our governors and our leadership, but also it's just been compounding. The insecurity, whether we like it or not, is a serious issue. If people do not feel safe, Zamfara is largely an agricultural state. You know, although it's also blessed with huge, solid mineral deposits, but people cannot even get to the farms. We are constantly, you know, fighting one thing or the other. I would really appreciate a federal government that is able to restore security back, especially the northern areas, so that the governors now can do the business of creating wealth, creating jobs and employment for people there.
Fantastic point, Mariam. In addition to that, also, we also need to federal government to help these governors have less politicking. Because some could argue that Governor Matawale for the past few years has done more of politicking than really governing. Many, if I'm reading from the report from the Premium Times, according to him, he was, at the time he came in, he was arguably one of the most liked, most celebrated and respected politicians in Zamfara. According to this report, there was a time that he was with, he was in PDP, obviously, and it was, as I said earlier, it was a Supreme Court judgment that caused him to move on to APC. But he had represented in PDP the face of the new PDP, braving all the odds. His decision to stay in PDP and publicly identify with the poor in the state made him a hero amongst his people. No one thought he would ever jump ship to the APC from the PDP after he was declared the new governor awaiting by the Supreme Court. So as soon as he joined his old allies, he felt there was nobody in PDP that can actually upturn or win against him. So it was more of a political, so it was like he was focusing more on all those politicking than actually in governance. Now, what this conversation really is about is that we need to see the posture of the new and incoming administration as regards they're holding account of the governors to ensure there's actual development of the people, because we understand there's a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture for macroeconomics and all that to help to develop the nation, but some people just lack creativity.
Truth.
Some governors just lack, they are just so used for collecting money from the center that they're not even thinking. So this Zamfara State case study must not be replicated across the country. I think that's really what our conversation is about this morning.
Yeah, so what I see is one of the major issues is the fact that the governors live for the future and not in the present moment. So they are more concerned about clinching power, about coming back for a second term than what they are supposed to be doing in the first term. So if you have been elected, you are done with the politicking. It's a no-brainer that you should still continue playing to the gallery because you want to come back. If you are interested in your people, and there's little the federal government can do, they cannot carry cane and be flogging all the governors. You that decided to be a governor of your state should have the interest of your state at heart. I remember there was a time we had a conversation with Fashola, and he was explaining how he needed to do some things in terms of security, and he had to go straight to the president to make his plans known that, Oga, you have to give me so that I can better protect my people. And even when they were asking him, you have to go through the bureaucracy, he said, no, I have to see the president. He insisted, and the president gave him audience. So there's little the president can do in terms of taking cane and flogging governors to love their people. You that you are a leader, you don't know that you're supposed to be thinking for your people, but you're more concerned about holding on to the power. So instead of doing the work, let us give them the rice. Let us give them the 5,000 naira so that they will re-elect us again. And you forget that you need to set a legacy. You need to love your people. You need to think creatively, especially in the north. I feel so bad. So I had a little background in the north. I grew up a bit in Kano. My father was working in the north at that time. I've been to Maiduguri as well. The place is beautiful. I travel to places like Botswana. I don't see anything fantastic. I go to Mauritius. There's nothing fantastic. There are places in Nigeria that are more beautiful than these places that we spend so much to go and just have a look around. Why are you not thinking of tourism? Why are you not having the conversation, bringing people in? Why are you not ensuring that security is tight in your place so that people can come in? Some of us will save money from the beginning of the year to the end because we want to go to one country. Why can't I just carry my bag and go to a place like Jalingo to have vacation with my children? My children do not know Nigeria today because I'm afraid. So it's not for you to, focus on, I have to just be here for 8 years, Focus on what can I do for my people now that I am here. Even if it's 6 months, they should feel the impact you have on them as a governor.
Right. You know, I was really intrigued because this conversation also is based on some of the reports we've read, especially from Premium Times. And I was reading the report, and it was quite enlightening to read that even the Governor Matawale at the time was asked during his campaign about his capital projects, if he had been using the projects as a tool to campaign for second term. But according to the report, Matawale could not cite any project he had done. Okay. Rather, he said that the people of Zamfara had seen and appreciated what he has done.
Which is?
Also, civil servants have also been feeling the heat because the salaries were not paid. As of this report, according to this report, as of February 2023, they hadn't been paid their salaries. Minimum wage increment has also been on and off, with several civil servants complaining that their salary has been slashed instead of being increased. So there are a lot of issues, and for these people to come out on Saturday to pray, they needed divine intervention. But let's come to the issue of prayer, because it's not a Zamfara problem, it's a Nigerian problem. We always, every little thing, we say, God, after complaining about Nigeria, the best way to round up the final sentence, we always say, God will help us. Let's go on a break. When we come back to this, how God would help Nigeria. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing governors and their plans for their various states. But I'd like, as I said before the break, I said that we always choose to pray to God that, God will help us. And, when you look at some numbers and some figures, I was looking at the figures based from Okonjo-Iweala's speech when she was speaking during the, on Monday. I think it was an onboarding for governors, or it was a meeting. It was... she was warning against governors-elect against debt acquisition. She was speaking yesterday. And there was something she said very quickly, which I'd like to say, that we have challenges on the fiscal debt and monetary policy front, Nigeria's gross debt level has climbed from 19 trillion back in 2015. It's now about 91.6 trillion in 2023. The debt ratio has almost doubled, and even worse is that our debt servicing has increased dramatically. Now, it will be totally worsened when governors now increase the debt profile of the nation. So this is part of the issues we are discussing, the creativity on how do we ensure that our governors get more creative. I was going to link that also to the issue, the reports we read yesterday about the fact that these governors who have now somewhat indebted their various states and are not paying salaries will be leaving office with jumbo pensions, meaning that for years we'll give them a new house.
This impoverished state.
This impoverished state. New house. They're having new cars. They'll be having jumbo salaries. Now, what do we do? How do we fix this? I mean, it's quite disturbing, but what are your thoughts? So, Okonjo Iweala is saying, you that are coming in, don't go and increase our debt. We can't even be in a bad place already. The new governors are saying, I'm leaving, but the House of Assembly have approved X amount of billions for me to take with me. And then how do we move forward from this, especially with the new administration? I'll let you answer. Let me take this call. Good morning. Are you there?
Morning.
Farouk, you're live. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. This is the first time
Can't hear Farouk.
people
Are you
like
there?
you talking about good thing about North. I'm so happy. I'm so impressed. Very good of you people.
Thank you.
Our governors are only there for themselves, not for the people. I think this kind of conversation is very, very good, and you people keep it up. Are you hearing me?
Very clearly. Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, good. It's just like from my state now. I'm from Gombe State.
Okay.
Gombe State now is giving award like the best environment to come and do business in the whole Nigeria. So I think our governors should wake up and do the needful for their people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Farouk.
Thank you so much.
Mariam.
So I was going to start with the prayers, like these prayers that we always go to. I mean, when you read all the figures, when I'd seen all the figures, even me, I went, oh, only God can help us. And I realized the only reason I say that is because I don't understand it.
Yes.
I don't understand how we got here, and I don't understand how we're going to get out of it. I don't feel like we have a system that I can go to confirm, to hold people accountable, to make sure that that system is followed in such a way that we're unable, we're eventually able to rid ourselves of this debt and find ways to improve. Okonjo Iweala, as we know, we all definitely respect her. We respect her experience and knowledge that she brings to the fore. And we remember what she did under the Obasanjo regime. And to think that she was part of those who, tried to sort of reduce this debt profile at the time that she, was in government. And here we are now. She's part of saying, okay, if you come right now, things are even much worse than it used to be. It just shows me that there's nothing that we cannot fix if we're ready. There's nothing that is impossible to fix, but we're not ready. We're not knowledgeable. We don't care how it's done. We just want to get there and have our own piece of the cake. Simple. That's what this is about. So we need a system, whether we like it or not, whether we are Nigerians, we like to Nigerianize this or not. People need to pay for when they do something wrong. People need to know that there are consequences for not doing the right thing. You cannot come and be governor of a particular state, leave the state impoverished, and then go away expecting to still be catered to by that same state. It's so unfair. When we took the report yesterday, there was something you wanted to bring up, and I think we should look at it that every state governor, by the time you're done, we put the paper down for you. We look at the figures. If you're good to go, 10% of whatever it is that you were able to bring into, we will use that in servicing you, or not 10%, I'm sorry, maybe like 2%, servicing you during your pension years. If it was debt, you gave us much more. You owe us. Do you understand? Let people know that they still have to earn. It's not given. I just don't need to know some cronies, get into office, and then I know. For some people, I feel that's all the reason why they're doing it. The moment I get there, I know that my pension is sorted. So I don't need to do much. If you like, send me out of the place after 4 years. I just know that my pension is
backed. It is backed by law.
Thank you. But if I know that if I don't do well, there's nothing for me to go home to. There's nothing for me. Because this thing that we call legacy, we call, your name, it means nothing to Nigerians anymore.
Yeah.
It has to
Your
do about
money.
money. So we now understand it's a transaction, right?
Yeah.
Okay, show us what you have done, and then we will repay you.
Let me
for
take
the hard
this
work
call.
you have
I
done
mean,
so
I like
far.
to hop on other people. Let me take Onome calling from Ojudu. Good morning, Onome. You live? Oh, I'm so sorry for
lost
keeping you.
that, yeah.
I like that. If I'm coming to be governor of a state, whatever revenue I bring in, whatever it is from that revenue I bring in, that even if it is 0.00%,
Yeah.
I know that I get a portion of it for my pensions. And if I don't bring in revenue, I go home as I because I've come to serve. But you see, maybe that can also help to instigate the creativity that we're looking for from these governors. Let me come to you, BC.
So, I've always said that for you to be a leader, you must have led something before. I don't want a situation where somebody is born and the person just says, I am born to lead and I want to lead the people of Nigeria and that's my life's ambition. So they go to school, they study leadership and they just lead the masses without leading themselves, without leading their corporations, without creating something. We need to start getting leaders there who have done something before, who have experience in economics, who are technocrats in one field or the other, who have managed people, managed resources, and made something out of it. Because you cannot give what you do not have. If you have run a business, you know that when you put in, you expect an output. Yeah. When you come into governance, you will handle governance like business. Governance is actually business if you want to make it profitable for the people of your state. Governors should have KPIs. In big organizations, you have people who are delivering. They check you according to the metrics of what you have delivered, just like Miriam said. And they use it to pay you your bonuses and all of that. And so you see people working hard to ensure that they clench their bonus for the year. They don't want to miss their bonus. We should have that. So if you are a technocrat, for instance, you finish your governance, you go back to your job or you go back to consulting. Now, whatever pensions you get, which I would advise that for the fact that you have led, you're a governor or whatever it is that you got into the apex of that leadership, you would be rated at the level of the highest government worker, at the level of the highest civil servant in terms of pension. So if, for instance, the level is grade 12, for instance, that's the highest, that is your rating, and that is how you're going to get your pension using the contributory scheme. That way, you're not having all these largesse. We are giving you cars, we're paying you 100%. Hold on, I'm telling you, I'm ready to be a consultant.
Let me pause you for a second. Okay. Gusau has been holding up for a while. Good morning, Gusau.
Yeah, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Madam Morayo, PC, and Mariam. This is my first time calling.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, basically the Nigerian problem, you guys you just hit the nail on the head by saying when these politicians get into the office, they go for their own agenda, which is true. Because you have to also understand the indices behind the election, how they rally around, buy votes, pay a lot of money, bribe people to get into such offices. Before even getting there, they are already compromised. Yeah. And the systems, So for me, what I think is for the solution to the Nigerian problem is basic. It's just...
Oh, we lost that. Now let's come... Susa, I really wanted to hear him. Let's come to what federal government can do, because I know you had highlighted some that how much power does the president-elect or the federal government would have on the governors. And then remember Okonjo-Iweala doing. I remember I read her book, and she was complaining that she was telling us in her book how she was telling the governors that they should not share the sovereign wealth fund, that we need to save this money, and the governors were insisting. She did everything to keep that fund away from governors. But they insisted on that we have to share because they need money. Most of them were not generating revenue, and they needed that fund to create jobs according to them in their various states. But you see, it goes back to how much of influence can this new administration have on the incoming government? I was saying to myself that how do we hold them accountable? What can the new administration do to ensure that the governors that are working within our states have plans and are not just focused on politics and ensuring that they can help to generate revenue and create jobs for their people. Let me take that to, I lost my train of thought. I was going to take that to the pensions that they're going to be going with right now, where you're saying that they have to, it's based on what you're earning as a state. Lagos, for example, is earning revenue. And as much as we also critique Lagos, this is a bit of a jumbo pay. Some of us can also say, okay, well, you guys are making a bit of money. But at the same time, Nigerians will still want to criticize and critique how much are you giving governors who are outgoing. But here we don't have an outgoing governor. We have a re-elected governor. So we'll have that conversation in the next 4 years. But for those states who are having outgoing governors, what is the metrics they are using to give, what the law that has been established by these states to give them, where do you plan to get that money from? Can the federal government therefore sanction the states that if this money that we're giving you, this allocation, if it's going to salaries, we're not paying you? Because really, that's what we have. I know they don't have the right to do that right now because they can only, constitutionally, they're supposed to give them the money. But can they find a way to reverse this law such that the federal government can then begin to have specific requests of the state governments on what they do with the money that we're giving to you?
Right, that's why education is important. You and I, the electorate, we need to understand how the government works and how government work, how our money is being spent, how it's made, what it means when the governor comes in and they've changed all the cars, they've changed the buildings. We need to understand that money is coming from somewhere. Yeah. And then we need to be able to be, vigilant to see how it's affecting health, how it's affecting education. Sometimes when I see how the widespread lack of education in the North, a part of me says this has to be deliberate because an electorate that is not educated would not ask questions. Yeah. And whatever you give it, they'll only feel gratitude towards, because they don't know that it's their money. They don't know that this is money that is meant for them. They don't understand that when he wears his Burberry and he's driving into those cars, that is your money just, being used like that. So we need people to be educated. Then we will ask the right questions. Then we will ask the right questions of those who want to run for office. Then when they say to us, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And I see it with the Lagos State elections. When the Lagosians ask them questions, you're going to do this, do that. Where is the money coming from? You have said you are building rail. This rail was built in another country, this amount. How come this is costing us here? And your governor has to answer. He knows that there are intelligent, educated people in this town that if he does not, they will call him out. So that is what I would like to see in the North as well. We need to understand that this is a money business. Everywhere money is spent is coming from somewhere, and it also means that it will be taken away from somewhere. Do not allow them to use the money for your children's education, for your health, to be politicking and traveling up and down. And we need to understand, there's another thing also about the governors.
Let me let you pause for a second for that. Sean's holding for a while. Sean, are you there? Sorry. I'm sorry, go ahead, you're live.
Good morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
And ladies of your view. And Miriam took it, out of my mouth. That's exactly what I want to, discuss. People's education. Our people are not educated. Yeah. And that is it. Our people need to be educated in that area. We need to know that. We need to ask questions from leadership, especially leadership that are closer to us, our councillors, our chairmen, our governor. You see, we are going too far if we'll be asking questions from the presidency. Yeah. And that is one. We need education. We need that education. Then two, we have to make all these positions less lucrative. They are too lucrative. When you know that you are going there with a zero, with nothing, and you are going to come back with nothing, you are not going to receive newspaper allowance, cutlery allowance, and all of that. Okay, I don't want to use the word nonsense allowance. Until we make it look, those positions less lucrative, I don't think we'll move forward. Let's make it less lucrative. And the work is on the House of Assembly, the State House of Assembly, and then the National House of Assembly. So until we begin to do all of this, and then we do a lot of overhauling in this area.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, we
So
could.
let me just finish. I was just going to say, so an educated electorate would mean that those who we now represent us in our states, different states, House of Assemblies, will be those who understand, who are educated and understand the policies, understand how the money works within our states, and will push for policies that will, that will benefit our different states and benefit individuals, and not just benefit the politician that comes in every 4 or 8 years and he's gone. And also when people are educated, they understand the knock-on effects of good policies. Even if I'm the one that has put the policy in place, I may not enjoy it directly right now, but because I've put this good policy in place, I've stopped overspending and just putting money towards pensions and just sitting there. And once I put a great policy in place, I know that I would enjoy the benefits of it. And I know that when I push for a bad policy, I will suffer the consequences of that. And my children will enjoy benefits of good policies, and my great-grandchildren, and so forth. And also, if it's a bad policy, I will suffer the consequences, and so will my generation. And it's from lack of education and exposure that people just think of today and the now. That,
All right, we have to wrap this up, and let me take this call, then I'll come to you, BC. Good morning, are you there? Oh, I lost the call. BC, as we wrap up on this, because really the reason why we're highlighting this conversation is because it's quite disheartening to see Nigerians just praying. We all do pray.
Yeah.
We're all praying that Nigeria will be better, that we can have jobs. We pray, we trust God to provide these jobs for us. But we don't want the new administration to resort to only prayers. We want the new administration, including all the various parties, because we have quite a few governors from different parties also. We expect that they actually do work. So as we wrap up on this, what are some of the things you'd like to highlight to be done in this new administration?
So we cannot keep doing something the same way and expect a different result. The government of before have gotten away with a lot of things because Nigerians were not aware enough to request and insist on accountability. But now we're waking up, right? And I would like this incoming administration to put some things on ground. First of all, governors must have KPIs. When they have their governors meeting, I don't know what they discuss. They must have KPIs. They must have deliverables as governors. So if we give you so and so amount, this and this is what we expect. And as a matter of fact, they can adopt that UBEC style, where you want to be giving something for education. This is what you should generate as a governor to be able to access this fund. You want to be giving something for this or that, maybe infrastructure or whatever it is, or even your allocation. This is what you must generate to be able to assess this and get them to work. You will see that because they want that money to be able to work, they will generate. You have to put them in a position where they are allowed to think. Now, there's so much largesse. And when you are in that space where everything is comfortable for you, you don't think. We see it even in our children. There were some things I had to create as a child, devising my toys because I didn't have toys. But now, the children we go to the supermarket, we buy the toys, we give to them, they are not creating their toys. So that's how it is with human beings. You must put them in a position where they are able to think and come up with solutions that will work. And no states should be equal. No states. That is how you are going to breed competition. So if you do well, you get your resources, you get your bonus, and you are paid well. Other states that are struggling will sit up because they want to get that money. Don't say, because it's federal allocation, we'll share everything equally to everybody. The people that are working hard will just feel there's no point. After all, we're getting the same allocation. The people that are not working will say, after all, something is coming. So let us handle this administration or this government as a business. And I'm glad that the incoming president is a businessman. He has done business before. So we need him to use that business sense to help this country. And consequences, we must not forget about it. You don't do well, you squander money, we will jail you.
Anyways, this is a consultant. You see, what I love about our show is that we're able to bring the conversation down to the basics so that we're not hiding behind big words and trying to bamboozle Nigerians or make them even more confused than they ought to be. This show breaks down complex conversations and brings it down so that the average Nigerian can understand what's really going on. And I think the crux of this is that we need new ideas.
Yeah.
We need a leader, which hopefully we have in the new coming administration, who can lead from the front and show example.
Yeah.
Because we don't want a repeat of this as the new administration comes in. We don't want Nigerians having prayer sessions that their salaries will be paid.
Imagine.
That should be long gone come May 29th. And we expect that the new administration will hit the ground flying, not even running. Flying, running is, you don't accept running again. You must be flying. From May 29th evening like this, we should have had ministers that have been appointed, something. Everybody's working.
Yeah.
You know how that first speech of Buhari got the nation,
Everybody sat up.
I am for nobody. I am.
Then we sat up.
Everybody
Then we
sat
now
up.
hung. We now hung.
I said, Buhari, everybody, from that speech, like, go, you hear it today. You see it today. Buhari will catch you. After that, Buhari just say, oh, I beg. Let these 8 years just come and go. Make I do that, right? No have time for this, you know? Hopefully, the new administration will not have that. And I'm looking forward for that speech. I'm looking forward to that first speech. Goodness, whoever is putting the speech together, got to be powerful. The Nigerians must feel that, yes, we are ready for work, and this country must be fixed in 4 years. Let's say, yes, Nigeria has it. So all the governors, we are in the party or not party, we are all aligned.
Yes.
So a vision
Thank you.
to make Nigeria better.
Yeah.
I think that's all we can take on this segment. When we come back, bringing our guests, it's Tuesday. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So, unfortunately, our guest for today couldn't make it, so we have to discuss another really important topic that caught our attention. So, a women rights activist staged a peaceful protest in Anambra State on, I think it was May 11th last week. They were condemning the unwholesome widowhood practice of forcing a woman or a widow to drink the water used to wash the deceased corpse at a community at Atani, Ogbaru local government in Anambra State. Many know that a lot of communities have condemned this practice for many years. And interestingly, the suspect, I have his name here, I think it was Mr. Let me get the name. He was actually arrested, Mr. Albert Eligwe. He was a suspect and a native of Atani, Ogbaru local government. And he was arrested and arraigned on a 5-count charge before the Children, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Court in Awka. It was a bailable offense of 500,000 naira, so he paid the bill and he left. But aside from the fact that we're happy he was arrested, and though the proceedings have started in court, the issue now is more of the reorientation of the practice. So, yes, activists, community groups, women rights activists have done what they can to get a policy in place to criminalize this act. But the people are yet to accept and understand that it is illegal or it is wrong to continue such practices. But according to the activists, in some communities, it's still widely practiced. So we need much more than just moving a policy. Nigeria is one thing to do policy and another thing to be implemented. So yes, this might serve as a deterrent, but the real change is the people seeing the unhuman effect of this. What are your thoughts on the fact that this practice is still ongoing in various communities in Anambra State especially?
Okay, so I've seen that practice firsthand, coming from that part of, yes, I've seen that happen. And at the time, I didn't understand what was going on. But from the little understanding I had about the practice, it's not meted out to men. It's just a practice against women. And, you know, for every man that dies in the family, whether it's husband or uncle or something, there's always this suspicion that it's a woman that has killed this person. And for them to find out who has done that, they would have to, you know, do this practice just on the women to be sure that you did not kill your husband or you did not kill your nephew. So they wash the dead body, you know, like before the mortuary stuff, they wash the corpse and ask you to drink the water from the washed corpse.
So when you drink it and you are
the guilty person, you're supposed to die or something would happen to you. And I think they also add other concussions because I don't think they can get that from just washing the corpse. So they add other spiritual things to the water. You drink it. If you're not guilty, you survive. If you're guilty, you either die or a
But
sickness comes to
interestingly,
you.
BC, I met somebody who, she was in her 60s many years ago, and we were just having a conversation, and she was saying that she actually had to drink that water at the time. And it wasn't because they suspected her of killing. It was more of an honor to her dead husband. You know, it was more like, listen, just to show how much I love and I dedicated myself to you, I'm willing to sacrifice that, you know. So for her, it was a honorable thing for her to do. And she didn't have an issue with this. It's a practice that was a community. But now, I mean, she wouldn't want that to happen to her own daughters and everything. But
why now?
It's something that was her understanding at the time. So that's why I'm always very, very wary of condemning what I don't understand.
So she chose to drink it and made a positive excuse out of it. But that drinking is not done if there's no suspicion. And unfortunately, in those areas, there's always suspicion that is the woman that has killed. And that's why they do this. So maybe she just, you know how... Yes, you know when things happen and you want to just see a positive outlook, not to feel bad about it. I think that's what probably happened to her. But it's a culture that, you know, like we say, culture is a way of life that people devise to protect themselves. We have outgrown that. There are ways to find out who has killed right now without having to subject people to drinking the water from a corpse. So what I expect is some of the traditional rulers because every community has a leader. They are enlightened to the best of my ability. They have people who have gone to school who are there. They should begin to review some of these practices. What are they doing in 2023? Review the practice, say this is not working for me, because even in that practice, rich people don't go through it. They pay a fine. So why don't you make it as general? If we suspect so and so, we'll fine you first, then we'll probably start out an investigation properly. We'll go to the police, you know, we'll do autopsy to determine some of these things so that you don't subject people to... Do you know the effects of drinking something that has been washed from a dead body? Do you know the effects medically? So we should have this conversation. The leaders of the community should have this conversation and say, let us change this. We can swap it. We can exchange it.
So let me go to the lady, Miss Hope Okoye. She's the journalist, not journalist, she was one of the protesters that was speaking. She said the peaceful demonstration is only a way to make the women's voices heard, as well as the clarion call to Ogbaru communities to review the existing obnoxious traditions and expunge all forms of harmful practices against women, all when meaning indigenous of Ogbaru and indeed Anambra State, both home and abroad, should lend their voices in speaking against every form of ill treatment against women and widows. And that's why the ladies of your view are also joining our voices to support Ms. Okoye in saying that we must expunge this negative practices.
So I understand also when you're not from a particular place to not go in criticizing without understanding. So I understand that point of view. But we have had this conversation long enough to know that even people from that community, this is something that they see as a weapon that's used against women, against the vulnerable. And that's the sad thing about, you know, some of our traditions that have not meant, that do not benefit us in any way. That as it's phasing out, is a small cluster of people still hold on to it as a way to bully or punish the more vulnerable people in their communities. The people who are poor, widows, orphans, they're the ones that suffer things like that. And so that's why we're joining our voices, because we now understand it's not about tradition, but it's about weaponizing tradition and bullying people that we think do not have a voice or do not have influence. And so I'm joining them as well, all of us, and saying that it is not right, it is unfair. And, you know, there's something that you mentioned, Mariah, which is, yes, we have policies, but also we need to have people who are willing to change their mindset and understand that the reason why we now have these new policies is also to protect them.
Everybody.
Because what I know with many Nigerians, we understand the policy, we understand what it means. Then maybe you now go to the village. They'll say, you and those your city things or foreign things. This is how it is done here. And you see people who are educated and exposed, all of a sudden they become monsters in a small community. And I'm wondering, you know, why do we do that? And who are the people who can stand up for these women in the local communities? Okay, that's why traditional leaders have to be called.
For a second, because I know on this table we've always been advocates for not totally removing our traditions and everything. You know, that we have to somewhat reformed some of these cultures, because that's what sets us apart from any other nation in the world, our cultures, practices, and traditions. And we've also tried to understand that there are ways of doing things that we don't know about. So, for example, somebody could argue that it's a way for helping women to be faithful. If I know that if something happens to my husband, for example, maybe if you cheat on your husband, something, maybe you frustrate your spouse to the point where they die, or because it's based on your nagging that pushes him to the point where something happens to him and is unable to cater for his family and his entire generation, his family, is a sort of deterrent to help a woman to be wholesome, to be faithful, to be pious, so that your job is to be a helpmate. Okay. Help this man to succeed so that nothing happens to him, because God forbid something happens to him, you will drink the water that's his body. So it's a sort of system that has been put in place to help women.
That's how it started.
So to stay faithful.
In 1500s. But thankfully, we're not in 1500s anymore. We have a justice system.
Yes.
We have the police. We have counselors. For heaven's sakes, we even have religion that Nigerians have carried above anything that we believe. And since Anambra State right now is the conversation, we know that many people from the East are devout Catholics. They believe in Jesus Christ. They understand about the love of God and forgiveness. And also, where you go for the forgiveness of your sins. They understand going to your priest and telling your sins, and God will forgive you. They also understand that if whatever your crime is so big, they know where the police station is. They know where the courts are. It is not about that tradition. That's what I said. It is about weaponizing tradition against the vulnerable. That's what this conversation is about. When there was no other system but that traditional system, we understood. It made sense. But it doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't make sense anymore because we know that there are people who are they are like the devil, waiting for who to devour, who to accuse, and then use this tradition to punish them. Oh, I asked you to do this for me. I wanted your land. I wanted something. Oh, you decided not to marry me. You married someone. I would see how I use tradition against you. That has happened. If you think the person has killed your brother or has killed your husband, take the person to court. Let them catch the person. Let the police come and catch the person. Let them go to court.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Because, let me use the Seun Kuti story, for example. Every day we criticize many people for bad behavior. And when the Seun Kuti episode happened, we amongst ourselves, we discussed, are you sure? How do we even approach this? Because he's like family. It's like saying, oh, your brother slapped somebody on the road, and then you're having to condemn him publicly. It's the same thing. If it's a brother who is so close to you that his wife allegedly maybe killed, a lot of people, they are enlightened, this is not how we do things. Kia, you have a 360. Shebi is her, let her drink the body. She must drink that water. She must drink it. She must drink it to prove. Because you are very, very sure that it was that wife that killed. So when it affects us, we somewhat try to change it in our mind. It's easier to say when it is them. Oh, it is them that the ones that this is bad practice. But the moment it comes close to home, you see these same Nigerians who are living in Canada. Yeah. It is that one that is living in Canada. That one is like, but tell her to drink that thing. Let us prove that she's not the one. So whether we like it or not, are we being sincere in our acceptance or rejection of our culture and our traditions?
Human beings will always be human beings. And that means they will always be selfish, and you cannot take it away from them. And that is why we advocate that we have a system that puts checks and balances across board, so that when it is your turn and you are saying, oh, is my brother, or oh, is my sister, there's a system that you must go through irrespective. That is why the government must step in. Our leaders must step in, our traditional rulers must step in to ensure that everybody is treated equally. Now, we have had this culture from patriarchy, which meant that the men were absolved, because we have seen men who have killed their wives. Nobody asked them to drink the water from the cups.
Men own women.
Yes, because men own women. And we're saying this has got to stop. Anybody can die of any cause. It could be natural causes. It could be anything. When you suspect that somebody has done this, why don't you go through the proper channel? Because we end up giving people the cups water to drink that are innocent. And we do not look through to the end to see the effects of, their health. We do not look through when somebody is mourning. There's a lot of mental issues going on at the time. We are not paying attention to their mental health. We're not paying attention to what they could have been going through. You're not paying attention to what they have lost or what they had lost. The companionship, the support you're supposed to give them at the time. You are more worried about who has killed what and who should be punished for what. It is a barbaric system.
Well, with all due respect, let me punch that for a second. Let me puncture that for a second, because it's part of the self-help solution. Because the truth is that if you put yourself this moment in Ogbaru community, the way you live, you are there. The police station is probably far away for you to report or not. But for the sake of the conversation, perhaps the police station is very far away. Perhaps you've been there several times for other issues, nothing happened. Maybe the local government is very ineffective. You are solving your problem the way your forefathers did. You know, that's how you know it. So it's easy for us to be in the city and say, how can people in that community do that? But the truth is, it's their reality. That's how they solve it, how they have to solve their problem. How do they ensure they put enough checks so that men don't kill their wives don't kill their husbands, children don't kill their parents? These are the little checks they put in to sustain their community. So who are we there for? To begin to condemn what we do not understand.
Who are they there for? To become the judge and the jury? I thought they're supposed to leave it to the gods to find out. Why are we playing the gods? Yes, we want to go to culture, let's do it the right way. Leave it to the gods. If the gods talk to an Ezemo, and he comes with his stick and says, I saw this person, this and this is what is that. It's different. You are the one accusing, you are the one judging, you are the judge and the jury. Who gave you that right? That's a human being. So we must be considerate. And now we are in an enlightened environment. There is no state in this country that does not have a government. No matter how far it is, when you need some things, you go there. You locate it, you get it. There's no state in this country that will say they don't have cars, they don't have bicycles, they don't have motorcycles to go to the government or go to the police. There is no state in this country. We are constantly evolving, and we are saying, as human beings, we must begin to see differently. We must begin to evolve into the humanity we are created here for. Gone are the days where we had to use crude measures because we knew less. We did not understand it. So now that we are becoming, we're opening our eyes to understand that we're all human beings. We must love and respect ourselves. We should find better ways to do things.
And that's where we bring the touchlight again to the local government. The community leaders. They are the ones that are guilty. Not this Mr. Albert, or whatever. He's not the one that is guilty. It's the fact that there's nobody in the I don't know if there's Bali, the chiefs or the Igwes of the communities. They are not taking responsibility of reorientation, the responsibility of re-educating people and exposing them that there's a new law, because the man was arrested. It's bailable 500,000 naira. The proceedings will still go to court. So there's a policy. Government has done their own part. Government has done their part. It's now left for the people who can self-govern themselves, such that to begin to change the mindset, that will take years.
Well, that will take years, and then it will also take policies and punishments. So we have traditional leaders, they are called. I know that government does that. I know that NGOs sit down with community leaders to educate them about things like that and how it affects their people, humanity, and things like that. So we're now talking about people who are stubborn, who are saying, I don't care what you say, this is what I'll do. But the sad thing is, as I said before, is that they only use it against other people. They never use it for themselves.
Just women.
So for me, that 500,000 fine is too small. You know, it's not about the money. I feel that they may have even put that 500,000 on the side. For when they come to catch me, we pay it and we'll go back to do what we want to do. We'll call the traditional leaders in that community that allowed for that to happen and make your traditional leader face some sort of punishment or consequences for what you have done. Tomorrow, that traditional leaders will not, under his nose, that sort of thing will not happen. Other people have to be held responsible. You cannot stand and watch people being dehumanized, and you're supposed to be a leader in that community and get away with it. No. And you know, that's how we handle things generally in Nigeria. We don't want to punish some people because they hold a particular office or they hold a particular positions or they are brothers. That's the only way. Sometimes, after having spoken to them, put the policy in place, cajole them, pamper them, the other way is to hold the rod and say to them, if you don't change, these are the proper consequences for it. And really, for women, let us be each other's keepers. Let us speak up for women, because usually this culture and these traditions is always against women and orphans and children. women have to stand up for each other and protect each other.
And that's why it's so important. That's why when we saw this story, we had to lend our voices with Miss Okoye. She's at the forefront of this, and we had to just join forces. And she's also calling on members of that community across the world, wherever they are. They must be able to speak up against these practices. It is wrong, and the more we speak against it, the more. And that's what I love about Your View. We have created a platform for women to speak and express their views. So that is what we're going to be doing. Let's take a few comments on social media as we wrap up on this. Any thoughts?
Our YouTube is not showing.
We have quite a few. Theophilus Babatunde says, that woman in the middle gets sense very well. I love all of them, but I always submit to her statement. More elbow to you, ma. Andrew Stratham says, this practice is backward. This way you can say it would have been right and just for the colonial administrator at the time to lock up that backward practice. We have Frank of Scandi says, can someone please update me on the opinion? Prof. Imonaka Enakena says, the incoming government should diversify the economy. That must be the other topic. Allow total deregulation of the petroleum sector. Get eggheads to curb the inflationary pressures and devious rogue policies that is birthing a galloping inflation, death of our refineries, stifling of, and so many more. And Adinu Adebayo says,
okay.
Jesus.
One of those things that must not be said on
I'm
TV.
telling you.
All right, so we have to wrap up. I think the conversation goes back to the various levels of governance. And I think from the previous story, it was more of what state governments can do to improve the lives of Nigerians so that we don't have to keep asking or resorting to only God to provide for us. Salaries must be paid by state governments, and state governments get salaries not just from federal allocation, but by grooming creative and generating revenue. And we're hoping that the new administration and the leadership that we hope to have on May 29th will set the pace, set the tone, set the agenda for other governors to begin to make economic decisions to help Nigerians on one end. The second topic was about practices, going back to another level of governance, which is the local governments and community leaders. Yes, there's so much the state government has good. Even the human rights activists have gone to ensure that the policy has been put in place, but it's beyond policy making. It's now for the people themselves to understand these practices are dehumanizing and must be stopped. And this is something that must be done when we have first ladies, wives of commissioners of Rishi in the various states, the wives of the local government chairman. These are the kinds of things they do to continually re-educate people on how to make how to have better practices of checking malpractices amongst Nigerians. Either way, as Bisi said, we have a government in all our states, and that's the government's job, is to protect the people. And that's what we hope that will be done across from top to bottom. That's all we can take on today's show. Hope you learned a few things as we have. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.